Ethan is loud now. Everybody's saying you're doing well. All good now. Your mic is fine, Ethan. I think we're good to go. If
Cool.
you're if this is workable for you, I think we can continue. Yeah, cool. Anyway, for anybody who's just waltzing in, this is Ethan Cowgill of the Utah Geological Survey. Ethan was our fearless leader last summer in the field in Wyoming in the late Cretaceous almond formation, and we're going to be doing some fieldwork again together. It looks like this next summer. And so, Ethan, thank you for being here. This is actually our inaugural paleontologist interview stream for the year. I don't know if I told you, Ethan, but I recently got a raise on Twitch, like a 40% raise. So I can afford to pay paleontologists,
Oh,
like colleagues, every week to come here for interviews on Twitch. And you are the very first of ours right now. So why don't we just get squared away right here at the beginning? You've still got the same Venmo, right, Ethan?
I do. Although thank you very much. It's an honor. It's a pleasure. Congrats on the raise. That's terrific, and I appreciate your help here. My Venmo is. Let me
Is this still
open it.
Ethan Dino?
I don't remember the name. It's Dino hyphen 24. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's type in paleontologizing honorarium. Let's be real formal about it. There you go. It was, yeah. So we were recently able to reach a new revenue split level here on Twitch, which was really awesome, and so I can actually afford to like pay other researchers to appear for interviews here. So you're the very first one of those, Ethan. So thank you for being kind of our guinea pig here.
That's awesome.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Um. So first
Thanks
off,
for having me.
we've
I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
no worries. Yeah. Holy cow. Um. Thanks for being so chill as we work out some of the kinks at the very beginning. Hopefully this will be the most scuffed of all of our interview
Kinky.
streams. So thank you, Ethan, for your patience, and thank you, chat, for your patience as well. Um, but yeah, Ethan, do you want to tell us maybe a little bit about yourself and what you do? Introduce yourself to chat real quick for those of you who are not familiar with you.
Sure. So I work at the Utah Geological Survey, where I collect dinosaur fossils in the summertime and do surveys for dinosaur fossils. And then in the wintertime and in the fall, um, I prepare or clean up or conserve dinosaur fossils that we collect to get them ready to go to museums and live in museum collections and get studied and that kind of thing. I'm an undergraduate student studying geology, and I do research on mostly Jurassic and Cretaceous dinosaurs.
Hi, is that another cat that's nuzzling up against you right now? It's an epidemic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's spreading here.
Yeah. Oh, we remember him, right?
Yeah, this is Java.
Oh, Java.
Come on, man.
Longtime viewers of this stream remember Java from our Ethan, our stream when we were making sandwiches before the Mesozoic Terrestrial Ecosystems Conference. Java was quite the he was not camera shy.
We couldn't have done it without her.
Awesome. I'm glad to see she's doing well. Yeah, I moved into a place that there are 3 cats roving around here like lurking sharks, and apparently, occasionally they show up on stream.
Oh man.
Kind of whenever they feel like it. You know how cats
Watch
are.
your toes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Um those of you who are here in the chat, if you've got questions for Ethan, feel free to type those into the chat. I've got a few pre-recorded questions, but we're kind of winging it here. So yeah, do not be shy about typing questions into the chat. But Ethan, already in this stream I got some questions from some potentially aspiring paleontologists about how to become a paleontologist. And so I'm kind of wondering about, well, I already know a little bit about your background, but could you elucidate for the chat how you got to the position that you're in right now, how did you first get interested in paleontology, and how did you kind of spin that into a career in fossil science?
Sure, yeah. Real quick, do you happen to know the age of the person that asked that question?
High school age. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so what you're gonna want to do specifically for this person is uh, get as good a grade as you can in high school, and then you're gonna go to college and study either geology or biology or both, and then you're going to try to find a paleontologist that maybe lives near you or maybe that studies something that you're interested in, and you're going to email them or go to the nearest museum and try to volunteer for them. And then once you start meeting people who are doing paleo, then a bunch of doors will open for you if you're excited and interested. Um, if you don't meet the right people, nothing will happen, unfortunately. So, but generally, people in paleo, it kind of depends on volunteers. So having um, doing some free labor can really move mountains for your career. And then if you want to be a museum curator or a professor that studies paleo or works at a museum or that kind of thing, you'd go on to graduate school after your bachelor's degree, where you'd get maybe a master's degree or maybe a PhD doing research on fossils. And yeah, by that point, you'll have probably a clearer idea of exactly what you want to do paleo wise. But for me, I was really, I had terrible grades in school. I am like extremely ADD. So school was always a frustrating avenue for me.
I can
But
relate
I
to
did a
that.
lot of volunteering at museums, and yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Paleo kind of attracts that kind of person oftentimes. Um,
True.
but I did a lot of volunteering. Like I got to meet some paleontologists that were really helpful and were very generous with giving me opportunities even before I deserved them. So it kind of like um, snowballed, and it sort of motivated me to work really hard because it's like I have to earn these nice opportunities that have been offered to me so generously. So you kind of step up to the plate, and then um, yeah, volunteered with
Yeah.
all kinds of museums across the Southwest. Went to scientific conferences, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And Ethan, I think I remember back in 2014, at the mid Mesozoic meeting, I drove down from Montana to be there, and you were there as like a were you like a first year undergrad or a high school student or? But we actually met there, and I didn't even
I
realize.
would have been 14.
Yeah, yeah. So the best advice that I feel I can give people is to just get involved with paleontology from an early age if you can. So like I was lucky enough to be involved with UCMP here in Berkeley when I was in high school. But you had early opportunities. You were like talking with paleontologists when you were like 14 years old. You were already going to conferences and stuff like that. Um, and which is really really cool. How much of an influence do you think living in Utah had for you? Because you grew up in Utah, correct? And that is oh, and hang on a second, Ethan. We are getting a huge raid right now, which is a good thing. I know it sounds like a bad thing,
Nice.
but this is somebody just ended their stream, and no, no,
Vikings.
hang on, no, sorry, this is a spam thing. Sorry, this is not a good advertisement for Twitch right now. Um, this has not happened to me once in like the past 3 years, but we're getting a big like a bunch of spam bots coming into chat. So sorry about that, Ethan. Anyway, what I
All
wanted to
good.
get into here was the wonders of Utah. You grew up in Utah, and Utah really might be the best place in the world for dinosaur paleontology. Um, how much of an influence do you think that had on your own career and your upbringing and the opportunities that you had? And maybe just kind of sell us on the idea of Utah dinosaur paleontology as a native Utahn yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So I think it had an enormous impact on my development in paleo because there might be more museums, more dinosaurs, and more paleontologists in Utah than maybe any other state in America.
Yeah.
So I was extremely fortunate in that way, where I could just sort of drive 30 minutes from my house and meet with a paleontologist, volunteer with a museum, that kind of thing. Um, and Utah has such a diverse number of institutions that are involved with paleo because Utah has, like you mentioned, an incredible paleontological legacy and just really immense amounts of fossils that are known from the state. And
Yeah.
that's because Utah has the perfect geology to produce dinosaur fossils. So, right, dinosaurs come pretty much exclusively from land. So, if you're going to find a dinosaur, it's got to be in rocks that were deposited on or near land. And the rocks have to be in the Triassic, Jurassic, or Cretaceous periods because that's when dinosaurs lived. And those rocks have to be exposed at the surface because if they're covered in plants, you're not going to be able to find any fossils. So,
Yep.
Utah has a ton of rocks of exactly the right age, the right environment, and it's a pretty arid place. It's very dry, so there's not a bunch of plants covering most of the dinosaur outcrop. So it's just vast expanses of country that are really ripe for the picking for finding dinosaurs in. And whereas some places like Mongolia has an incredibly abundant dinosaurs, they're all over the place. Some of the most fossiliferous or dinosaur-rich badlands on the planet are in Mongolia, but there you have kind of a different situation where you have a few different slices of time that are exposed very broadly.
Yep.
So you can go and collect 100 skeletons of the Tyrannosaur Tarbosaurus, and so you get to see what complete skeletons look like. But you don't have a very continuous record through time like we have in Utah. So whereas in Utah it might be a little harder to go out and find a complete dinosaur tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
what you do get is an extremely complete record through time. So almost the entire age of dinosaurs is represented in Utah. And we have more species of dinosaur in Utah than in any other state in America. Um, and there's probably dozens that are currently in museum collections or being excavated or named as we speak.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Holy cow. Good explanation there. And a huge number of those have actually been excavated and described. A disproportionate number of those have been excavated and described by the organization that you're part of, Ethan, by the Utah Geological Survey, by people like Don DeBlue and Jim Kirkland. Um, how did you? Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the Utah Geological Survey uh, as a means to like inspire those who are watching right now who are dreaming of a career in paleontology? How did you do that?
Sure, yeah. I had seen the Utah State paleontologist, Dr. Jim Kirkland, in a lot of documentaries and stuff as a kid.
Me
So he's
too.
in things
Yeah.
like the documentary that shall not be named, Jurassic Fight Club, or he's in a great documentary called When Dinosaurs Roamed America.
Oh yeah.
Um, he's got a lot. So he was like one of the big wigs when I was a kid, right? You'd turn on Discovery Channel or Animal Planet and see he was one of maybe 5 faces that you see over and over again in dinosaur stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he lived 30 minutes from where I lived, and he happened to be giving a talk that I found in a newspaper clipping. And so my dad drove me to see that talk, and then uh, Jim and I, after he finished speaking, talked for like an hour straight. And he got me to join this club called the Utah Friends of Paleontology in Salt
Oh
Lake,
yeah.
where they meet
UFA.
and they have monthly meetings. People get together and give talks. And so started doing that, and then I started volunteering with Jim in the field, and I got all kinds of really terrific opportunities, and I gained a lot of great skills from him and from his assistant Don DeBlue. So I got some really great experience in how to collect fossils, how to find fossils, how to prepare and clean fossils in the laboratory, and learned a lot about the science and about how a career in paleontology looks like and how it works from them. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all thanks to Jim.
So it really comes down to kind of proximity in a way, right? If you can get into a position where you're interacting with paleontologists, where you're there where the action is, that really makes a huge difference in your experience too, right?
definitely,
Yeah, yeah, cool. That's cool
absolutely.
because it.
But all is not lost if you don't live. Go ahead.
No, go for it. Yeah,
Okay, I was going to say all is not lost if you don't live, a stone's throw away from dinosaur badlands, because there's fossils all over the entire planet. They just may not be dinosaurs, and usually you'll find uh, there's often a paleontologist wherever you are in the world, in any moderately developed place. There should be a paleontologist studying fossils that are from that area. So if you're working in British Columbia, if you live in British Columbia, there's a good chance that somebody's there studying fossils in British Columbia, like really old Cambrian, like ancestors of vertebrates, and like really old arthropods and really cool stuff like that. So it might not always be dinosaurs, um, but there's plenty of other interesting things all over the world. So
yeah, that's good advice because again, not everybody lives near. Shoot, growing up here in the San Francisco Bay Area, I don't live anywhere near any dinosaur exposures, but I'm lucky there was a museum that was a train ride away from me. But yeah, in the age of the internet, you can talk to paleontologists, you can read scientific papers. In some small way, the internet does kind of bring things together for us, and that's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, yeah. Here, go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
oh no, no.
Okay, I heard that sharp inhalation. I thought maybe you had something to say, but yeah, I'm wondering just to kind of like bring things down a little bit for the chat. Ethan, did you have any favorite dinosaurs when you were a kid? And like I know I had a rotating cast of favorite dinosaurs when I was a kid that kind of led up to the present. Do you have any there? And it might be a little bit embarrassing to share. Some of mine are a little bit embarrassing, like Dryosaurus, for instance. But do you have any that you would like to share with the chat?
Yeah, I have. It's a very rare dinosaur that no one's ever heard of. Um, called Danny. You've probably heard of it. It's called Tyrannosaurus Rex. That was my favorite dinosaur as a kid by far.
Yeah,
Um,
classic. Yeah,
and
obscure, but
but
but good.
what's funny is that exactly, yeah, not much is known about him, unfortunately. Um, but what happens as you get into doing research on fossils is that once you start sinking your teeth into like a scientific problem about any particular group of dinosaurs, suddenly they become the most interesting thing in the world.
Oh yeah,
And especially with field work, the kind of things that you're finding in the field often become the most interesting thing to you, because that's an opportunity to contribute to the science in some way and develop new knowledge. So, for example, I'm extremely interested in duck-billed dinosaurs in hadrosaurs right now, even though they might not be the most charismatic dinosaur you could think of, but we're finding lots of them, and we know so much about them. So we get to ask really interesting and specific questions about how dinosaurs were evolving through time using hadrosaurs as kind of a model organism. So
yeah,
yeah,
really cool.
I
And
really like ceratopsians as well. They're really cool.
we'll be talking about both of those taxa, I think, in a little bit as we talk about what we were digging up last summer in the Almond Formation of Wyoming. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Um, and I really like what you said there too about like how when you're a kid, the your encounters with dinosaurs are through popular culture, through books, through movies, through documentaries and stuff like that. But once you actually start getting involved in the science, you're interacting with these things in the laboratory and in the field. You're actually finding fossils. And it's really kind of amazing how, like, your imagination just gets captured by these things you know, that you're actually finding there in the real world. Um, and that's such a magical feeling. Not to be corny or anything for the chat, but like, it's it's kind of extraordinary when you can actually be there, boots on the ground, finding these things in real life. It's such a privilege to be able to do that, and Ethan and I have both experienced that, and I don't know. Ethan, when you were a kid, did you, like me, did you think that you would actually become a paleontologist later on in life? I mean, was this? Tell us about that a little bit. Those aspirations and how they became reality for you.
I definitely did. Um, I definitely did feel. I mean, there was nothing else that I wanted to be. There was no close second at all.
Yeah.
Um, which is either disastrous or exactly what you need to succeed. It just
Uh
depends
huh.
on you know.
Yeah.
um, so I feel very lucky in that way that it's turned out. But yeah, I there were times where I didn't feel like maybe like as a teenager where it started to seem less plausible
Mm-hmm.
as sort of a life goal. Um, but I like what Jim says about this. He says a paleontologist is what a paleontologist does.
I love that too.
It's a
Yeah.
great quote.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and there's some people that say if you don't have a PhD in front of your name, you're not a paleontologist, which is a very strange opinion to have,
I
in my
agree.
opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Shoot. I mean, Jack Horner wouldn't be a paleontologist if that were the case. You know, it's an honorary
Exactly.
PhD. Doesn't count, right? So, yeah, yeah. If you're actually
Yeah.
doing work in the field, if you're publishing, if you're advancing scientific knowledge in that discipline, you are a paleontologist. That's the way that I count it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, Ethan, since you are doing work in this field, you're advancing the discipline. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the places that you've gone recently? Because you've sent me text messages with pictures of various places that you've gone recently. Uh, where have you gone over the past, year or so, and what were you studying there? What are some of the things that people should know about the stuff that you've been up to, kind of world trotting
Sure.
in the service of fossil science?
So just a couple of weeks ago, I got back from London, England, and not London, Florida. Um, and I was there for a conference at the Natural History Museum. So
Uh-huh.
there was the second century or 200 years have passed since the first dinosaur was named Megalosaurus bucklandi,
Yeah.
1824. So there was
Mm-hmm.
this big conference at the Natural History Museum in London, where there were talks and there was this great fancy dinner and all kinds of fun events to commemorate the 200 years since the first dinosaur. So I flew to England to do that, and the town of Oxford is just maybe 60 miles away from London.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's some really interesting dinosaur fossils at Oxford. It's one of the oldest, I guess it is the oldest collection of dinosaur fossils in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm studying a giant theropod dinosaur called Torvosaurus from the Jurassic period. And
Let me go get it.
most of the megalosaurid dinosaurs, the group that Torvosaurus belongs to, most of those are actually known from Europe, from England and from France and from Germany. So, being in England, it was a really great opportunity to study some of Torvosaurus' closest relatives to help figure out exactly what are the features and traits that separate Torvosaurus from these other megalosaurids. So, I got to see a bunch of skull bones from Megalosaurus, and in particular, I got to see the first dinosaur bone ever studied, basically ever studied, and the first dinosaur bone that served as a holotype or as the name bearing specimen of a dinosaur species. So it's the lower jaw of Megalosaurus bucklandi that was named back in 1824, and I got to see and study the original fossil, the first dinosaur ever studied by science. So that was a pretty cool privilege.
That is pretty
Danny here
awesome.
actually made me a terrific 3D print of that.
Sorry, go ahead. There's a delay.
Oh, you're good. You know what's funny is I'm watching I'm watching the stream in a separate window because you're not present in the window I'm actually logged into.
Oh shoot.
So
Okay,
that's
yeah, yeah.
probably accentuating the. It's my fault. I should stop looking at that video.
I don't
Anyway,
know if that's actually affecting it. Don't worry about it too
yeah.
much.
So
Yeah.
Danny, Okay, cool, nice.
Yeah.
So you made me a terrific 3D print of that lower jaw, which has been a great research aid for me. But yeah, it was a bit like going to Mecca, going to see the first dinosaur fossil ever described. It was pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Doing the Hodge there, seeing the first Megalosaurus specimen. Holy cow, 200 years since Buckland 1824. We need to do a special stream about that here. But
Time flies.
yeah, yeah. When you saw the original one, did it look bigger than the one that I gave you, Ethan? Because in order to fit that on the print bed, I had to turn it down to like 98% instead of 100% to get it to fit. Did it look bigger than the one that I gave you?
I think uh, I think they're pretty close. 98% is that's a pretty subtle difference. So
Okay, good, 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 good. That's glad. I'm
I'm
glad to
I'm
hear
happy.
that.
I'm happy with my 98.
All right, awesome. Yeah.
It was also I got to see some interesting fossils in the Natural History Museum in London, which was cool. There
Uh
was a
huh.
big so in 1970 when Dale
Uh huh.
Russell named Daspletosaurus, it's a giant
Yeah.
tyrannosaur from Alberta, late Cretaceous.
Daspletosaurus
He
turosus.
referred a bunch of fossils that had been collected. Exactly. Yeah, he'd referred a
Yeah.
bunch of specimens that were collected decades before to this new species. So basically, what he discovered was that among the fossils that people all assumed was Gorgosaurus, there were some that were different, which he decided to name a new species, Daspletosaurus. And
Uh
one of
huh.
the skulls that he referred to this new species, Daspletosaurus, was collected from Alberta in the 1920s by William Cutler and purchased by the Natural History Museum in London. And when
Oh.
Russell named Daspletosaurus, he said that this skull is also belongs to this new species of Tyrannosaur, to Daspletosaurus.
Uh huh.
But nobody, to my knowledge, nobody had seen or studied this skull for since 1970, or at least there were no pictures of it on the internet. There was nothing written about it anywhere. People
Yeah.
just kept saying it was a Daspletosaurus because of that. So it was cool to go and actually see it. It was an articulated front 2/3 of a skull, so both premaxillas, both maxillas, nasals, both lower jaws, both dentaries. So it was all of the business end of the animal's face, and it was really cool to see. I was surprised no one's really worked on it, but what I did find was that it actually lacks all of the synapomorphies or all the features that define Daspletosaurus. So it
Really?
looks like Russell was probably incorrect in calling it a Daspletosaurus. It's probably just a Gorgosaurus. But it is this big, beautiful skull just sitting in a museum cabinet that people have not looked at for decades for some reason. So that was cool to see, a little hidden treasure. Because no one had mentioned it, I just assumed it was probably like in 1,000 pieces. And
Yeah.
then the collections manager just pulls out this beautiful skull. I was like, oh my goodness, yeah, pretty cool.
That's really, really cool, Ethan. Holy cow. And so, I don't know, with those of us here in the States, when we hear about, UK dinosaur paleontology, we've got this thing where I frequently say that, like, in the UK, they have more dinosaur paleontologists than they have dinosaur fossils sometimes. So everybody's like fighting over these individual specimens and everything. It's kind of amazing that that one has not been studied. Is it from like the Red Deer River in Alberta or
Yeah,
something like that? Do you know where it's from?
it's from that area. Yeah, so probably Dinosaur Park formation.
Uh huh.
It looks like Gorgosaurus, so I would expect it to be Dinosaur Park.
Uh
Although
huh.
I don't think there's any really good locality data, just given that it was collected back in the 20s. But
Gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah.
you'd think they'd be fighting over that one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's surprising to hear. That's
And
really,
that
really
that
interesting
trend is
stuff.
changing now. There
Uh
are
huh.
the number of dinosaur paleontologists in the UK seems to be dwindling.
Really?
It seems like
That's not great
most
news.
paleo jobs, people are studying other things.
Uh huh.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just like you said, they can't really get new specimens very easily, and they
Yeah.
don't have the enormous collections that like we have in America.
Uh huh. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Shoot. So earlier on, I think it was probably like 2 weeks ago, Ethan, we were looking at on Twitter a picture that was posted, a photo of people attending this conference in the UK, and you were there kind of toward the center, like kind of like midway up. There was like a big auditorium. Everybody was sitting there, and we could pick you out there, and that was pretty cool to be able
Oh,
to
that's
see you.
funny. I can't find myself in that picture.
Really?
I tried looking for myself. I
we
couldn't.
had no trouble with that. It was, yeah, you're kind of there toward the center of the
Nice.
crowd, I think. Yeah. Um but that's
Nice.
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Um Now we've got some other questions from members of chat here. And here's kind of a goofy one, Ethan, if you're ready for it. But if you could go back to the era of Cope and Marsh, who would you work with, and what modern knowledge would you spread to them?
Probably Cope. He seemed a lot less insufferable, I think. And I think Cope was probably the better scientist.
Huh. Everybody says that.
And I think Cope
Yeah.
did a lot more field work himself.
Uh huh.
Um, like Sternberg writes about going out into the field with Cope for like months.
Yeah.
So maybe not when he was old, but it seems like he did a lot more field work than Marsh did. It seems like Marsh would just show up every once in a while when it was extremely necessary, or like when he was
Mm-hmm.
leading like a class or something.
Yep.
So I think Cope would be the man. Although he was supposedly had terrible nightmares, so he probably would have kept you up at night.
Yeah. Yeah. And that might have had
Sternberg
something to
said
do
he
with
would like
his.
just hear the horrific sounds.
He would be tossed in his nightmares by all the creatures that he dug up within the day. Um, yeah. Yeah. I think it was Sternberg who wrote about that, wasn't it? Yeah. Um, when I hear this question, I don't know. Everybody always says Cope, so I always say Marsh. Um, Maybe partly to be contrarian, and partly because Marsh just worked on dinosaurs a little bit more exclusively than I think Cope did. Cope was like kind of all over the place. Cope was a genius, but he's working on amphibians and fishes and you know and reptiles and dinosaurs and mammals and I don't know. I usually say Marsh, so when that
I think
time
he
machine
wrote his
gets
first
invented, I
paper when he was like 12, right?
Cope, yeah, holy cow, Cope was he wrote he did these detailed illustrations of an ichthyosaur when he was like 12 years old. Like he was a child prodigy, in a way that Marsh really kind of wasn't. Um, but also like Cope grew up in like a wealthy family in the way that Marsh really didn't. Marsh had this wealthy uncle who like bought him a museum later on in life, but like Marsh had a fairly meager upbringing until that time. Anyway, yeah, yeah. Um, Ethan, did you ever hear about that? We've probably talked about this before. That movie that maybe HBO was going to make at one point about the Bone Wars, and they already started casting about it. And what's his name? Michael Scott from The Office. He was going to play Cope, and then James Gandolfini, Tony Soprano, was going to play Marsh in this, and
Nice.
that would have been pretty awesome. But it never really came to fruition because partly because James Gandolfini died before that could happen. But Steve Carell, thank you, Lenina and Claire
I'm gonna
Bird.
give him a
Yes,
fossil camera fuse.
sure, yeah. uh,
I would have loved to have seen that.
that would have been really really cool. I can only dream that something like that would come about again. I mean, it's goofy, but like even goofy stuff like that can sometimes get people excited about fossil science. I mean, I've been teaching on Saturdays for the past 3 Saturdays. I've been teaching kids about dinosaur science here locally, and they're all obsessed with Jurassic World and everything. And luckily none of them said that Indominus Rex was their favorite dinosaur, but the way that even goofy pop cultural things like that can kind of inflame their knowledge about fossil science is it's really cool and special. And I'm kind of wondering, Ethan, like, what are your strategies when you're talking to people in the general public about science? How do you get them excited about these things? And like maybe what are some of your favorite facts to share with them about Mesozoic paleontology, especially in Utah, when you're talking to like a school group or something like that?
Well, usually whenever I'm doing that, I have fossils in front of me, so
Mm-hmm.
it's quite easy to have the kids kind of guide. Like they'll just pick something up and be like, "What's this?" And then that lets you
Uh
um,
huh.
start a conversation that they're kind of leading, you know. But what's really interesting is how obsessed or how surprised and amazed everyone is to find out that the fossils they're looking at are from Utah. So people are very
Huh.
interested in not just the history of the earth, but people are very interested in what lived where they are at a certain time. It's like, oh, my where
Right.
I'm from is special
Uh
in
huh.
this way. So
Yeah.
people like, it's kind of a point of pride in many cases,
Uh
which
huh.
is terrific. Um, yeah,
That's really cool. That's really cool. I'm involved with a
people.
project
I mean,
right
it
now
blows people's
where
minds.
yeah, go for it.
No, no, you're good. This, it's the lag. No worries.
Yeah, I'm involved with a project right now where there's a local fossil site that's really really special, like the type locality for a certain age of fossils, and like I can't talk too much about it right now, but planning on building a museum and that kind of thing. And I think I'm really, really hoping that that kind of local draw, that local pride, will be really important to people. Um, yeah. Do you feel like people in Utah have any sense, generally speaking, like the general public, your average Joe on the street, do they have any kind of idea that Utah is maybe the most dinosauriferous place in the U.S., if not in the world?
I think I think they may have. I think they know there are dinosaurs, but it seems like most people do not know how special it is.
Uh huh.
Surprisingly,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Um, yeah.
Ontogeny.
It's funny. In other places like Montana, I feel like people have a pretty good sense for that, but maybe they've had kind of a head start there. Where like Jack Horner was working on dinosaurs at Egg Mountain back in the 80s and stuff. And outside of Dinosaur National Monument in Utah, I'm not sure if there are a lot of other places where that sort of information has made its way out to the public. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm really hoping that the Utah Geological Survey and the Museum in Price and other places can really kind of do that kind of outreach here in the 21st century. But anyway, yeah. Let me go on to another question here. Um, let's see here. Well, here's one that's super relevant before you have to go, Ethan, because I know you might be running out of time. Jody Fish would like to know, how did last summer's dig season go in Wyoming? Presumably she means. And how many jackets did you end up taking back?
It went ridiculously well. Uh, so I mean, it was almost like we just happened to find every fossil that we needed to find.
It's
um,
amazing like that. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
what looks like we collected what looks like most of a duckbill dinosaur skull, which is the most important part of the animal for figuring out what species you have is the head.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like we got a large percentage of a head of a hadrosaur with no bones from behind the head. So usually it's like you find little bits of the skeleton and hope, you collect everything you find, of
You
course,
hope to
and
find a
hope that
single
maybe there's a
scrap of
skull
a
to give you some good
skull,
information. This
Yeah.
time, all we got was skull and nothing else. So it was like every minute we spent was definitely worth the effort. From there, from the Skull Ridge site where we got the hadrosaur skull, we only collected 3 jackets. One jacket for the left lower jaw, one jacket for the right side of the lower jaw, and then one giant jacket for the rest of the head skeleton that had fallen apart into many pieces. So that's 3 there. We also found the back part of a ceratopsian dinosaur frill, which is the most important part of the body for figuring out what species you have. So there's a good chance that will be a holotype or the first example of a new species. That was one jacket. We're going to be going back this summer to excavate at that ceratopsian and hopefully find more of the skull, because there were actually little bits of bone still poking out of the hill at that site last year. We were just limited in the amount of rock we could move because we were only allowed to move a square meter at that site. But this year we'll be able to move yards and yards worth of,
So
or
we've got an
meters and
excavation
meters, I
permit
should say,
there.
of sediment. It's in the works. Yeah, it's being expedited. So
Fantastic. That is so exciting to hear.
we also
Yeah.
collected, super exciting. We also collected dozens of really nice plant fossils. So the flora from the Almond Formation is really not known at all, even though collections have been made. We collected a lot of really great invertebrate fossils. We found some really, toward the end, we found some really extraordinary turtles and fish and croc pieces. So it's really exciting to sort of round out what the ecosystem looks like. This year, we're going to be putting a ton of effort into finding more of these turtles, fish, crocodiles, and plants at this one particular locality, which is unbelievably productive. And it's going to tell us all kinds of things about the contextual information. Like we have things like bowfin fish, like amiids, this giant 6 or 7 foot long kind of amiid called Melvius. We collected this really cool turtle shell. It's about this big, and it's got a dozen crocodile tooth marks going up and down the length of the shell. And so you can actually see the outline of the crocodile's jaw in the shape of tooth marks. Got a bunch of we found our first crocodile osteoderm. So that's like one of the bony scutes in the back. But crocodiles have those spikes going up and down their tail and their back. And we found one of the little bony cores of one of those. And it's pretty cool looking. I haven't seen an osteoderm quite like this. And so it went extremely well. So kind of beyond our wildest dreams. So this year cool. we have 2 articulated hadrosaur skeletons. So 2 duckbill skeletons where at least part of the skeleton is together, where the bones are together as they were in life. And those are just waiting for us to go and collect them. We've also got, that ceratopsian skull to finish as well. And we're going to have enough people to be working at 4 sites at the same time, and then a few extra to go prospecting, looking for more fossils, more sites. So it's really shaping up to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, shoot. And Ethan, can you talk at all about? It's okay if you can't, but about the researchers who might be joining us from Pennsylvania this year. I talked a little bit about this, but was kind of cagey about it. Yeah,
sure. So it looks like Dr. Matt Lamana of the Carnegie Museum in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Looks like he's going to come out with us. He's trying to come for the entire duration of the dig, which would be really great. He's done field work. He's actually leading a field project right now in Antarctica, looking for dinosaurs of roughly similar age to the Almond Formation, but in Antarctica. Huh. He's also heavily involved in field work in Africa and in Patagonia in Argentina. And he's got a long track record of working in China as well. So he's in Egypt. So he was part of the first team of paleontologists to go back to Egypt since the first dinosaurs were found there in the 1910s. So he's a really terrific dino expert, and he's going to be helping us find the fossils. He's going to be helping us prepare or clean up the fossils at the Carnegie Museum in Pittsburgh. So that's a really great alliance to have. The Skull Ridge Hadrosaur is currently being prepared. You can see it through the glass at the Carnegie Museum in Pittsburgh, and so is the ceratopsian. So the ceratopsian and the hadrosaur are going to be cleaned so that the public can go and see them get cleaned and see these new dinosaurs be revealed for the first time.
That's awesome. I didn't know that the ceratopsian was there in Cincinnati as well.
We may also have Glenn Storrs come out with us. Oh yeah. They got
they're in the viewing lab. That's so cool.
Yeah.
What an honor. Yeah. And Glenn Storrs as well. Can you tell us a little bit about who Glenn Storrs is?
Yeah, Glenn is the curator of the paleontology curator at the Cincinnati Museum Center, which is where all the fossils that we're collecting are eventually going to end up. And so Glenn got his PhD from Yale, but under John Ostrom, who was the paleontologist who essentially just discovered that dinosaurs or that birds evolved from dinosaurs back in the 1960s.
Hmm.
And so Glenn has done a ton of research on all kinds of fossil reptiles. You could probably say he's done plenty of work on dinosaurs, but he's probably most known for his work on marine reptiles, so like plesiosaurs and nothosaurs and things like that,
Hmm.
and also as well as crocodiles and other things and fish. So he's a very well-rounded paleontologist, and he'll probably be joining us for a period of that time as well, which would be great.
That's really
He's done a
cool,
lot of
Ethan.
work in Russia because he actually speaks Russian. So he's done a lot of work in collections and in the field in Russia, which is fun.
Very, very cool. Holy cow. I'm really excited for that. I mean, and it looks like we're going to be starting as soon as like the beginning of June this year, right? That's what you were texting me about earlier.
Yeah, I'm hoping to do the whole month.
That is really exciting. So, with any luck, cross your fingers that the Starlink continues to work, but we should be able to broadcast this live for everybody to be able to watch at home and do some serious science outreach here. So, pretty excited about that. Yeah. Yeah. Um
Oh, I should mention, obviously it's obviously not news to chat, but we were
uh-huh.
able to pull off that amazing success because of paleontologizing fans who
Yeah.
helped us raise a ton of money for the field work. So you
Thank you,
guys
Ethan. Yeah.
fed us, you supplied us, you got us the gas money, you got us the vehicles we needed to get everything around. So it was totally couldn't have done it without y'all. So thank you.
Thank you
In a
very, very
couple of
much, everybody.
years, you
Yeah.
should see the fruits of your labor be in the form of beautiful pictures and papers about these really cool fossils.
So excited for that. It's oh man. Cannot wait. Yeah. In the meantime, if anybody is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they might be able to go to the Carnegie Museum and see some of these fossils prepared in real time there in the viewing lab, right?
Absolutely. They're just about to crack open the ceratopsian soon. And one of the skull ridge hadrosaur lower jaws is already visible through the lab.
You sent me
It's looking
pictures of that,
pretty
Ethan, and
sweet.
it is exquisite. I cannot. Oh man. Thank you again for sending that,
It's
Ethan. And
jumbo. It's huge.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully this year we can go and find where that ankylosaur is coming out of the ground. Those those bits of osteoderms and stuff like that, where we tried to find the source of that and we couldn't this year before we had to leave. That would be really, really cool because an ankylosaur from the Almond Formation is almost guaranteed to be a new genus or species, and that would be really cool too. So new hadrosaur,
Yeah, do you recall where that
yeah.
where did you hear or sorry, where did you see ankylosaur bits?
Oh, it was along the road as we were driving up to the hadrosaur
Oh,
postcrania site.
yeah.
Yeah.
At Fisher, yeah, the site that Fisher found.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that may be an ankylosaur. I'm not sure, but
Uh-huh.
we know we have an ankylosaur for sure at a different site that's much closer to town, and we collected just
Oh.
right on the surface parts of three large notosaurid osteoderms, and we actually do have an excavation permit for that site. We just haven't gotten around to it because there's so much to do.
So
But so
we're
we
gonna do that
definitely do
this
have an
summer, it looks
ankylosaur. It's
like.
just waiting for us to go get it
That is super exciting. That is super
if we have the
exciting.
time. There's a lot. Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah. Holy moly. Well, I want to be really respectful of your time here, Ethan. It's 6:02 my time, which means it's 7:02 your time. Do you have to run or can you stick around for a little
I'm
while?
I'm not in any particular rush.
Okay.
So
Cool, cool, cool.
if anyone has any more questions, I'm happy to stay longer.
We've got other questions for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Um yeah, yeah. And let's see. Smay wants to know, can you tell if someone has dug fossils from a location before and do people leave notes or markers? Maybe you can talk a little bit about Barnum Brown and his work in this area and why it's maybe been largely unexplored up until the past couple of years when you started working there.
Yeah. So usually when people find fossils in a particular place, they'll publish scientific papers about it, And so that enters the scientific record, so you can read and learn about fossils from different places, right? So you can know, oh, someone found this fossil and they studied it and it came from here. Um, in the case of where we're working, we know that in the 1930s, Barnum Brown of the American Museum of Natural History, who was one of the most famous and successful dinosaur collectors that ever lived, he collected the first T Rex ever found, for example. He led an expedition there in 1937, and they found a ton of fossils, um, but nothing ever really became of those fossils in Brown's lifetime. So they found parts of a bunch of duck-billed dinosaur skeletons. They found a nice ceratopsian skull, just missing the frill. Um, and then Brown published a popular article about the expedition, but then nothing ever happened with that material until the 2000s, when some paleontologists started going into the collections and looking at that stuff and studying it again for the first time. And that's actually how I heard about the almond formation, was by these papers by other scientists who had studied the collections that Brown had made from there. So Brown kept really terrible notes. He was kind of famous
Yeah.
for keeping basically no record of the details of the fieldwork. But so he did have an assistant who kept records during the expedition in 1937 to the Almond Formation, and that information I've been able to see. So I've been able to see roughly where within a quarter mile where most of the dinosaurs came from, and we've actually used that to rediscover some of Brown's quarries, which is really cool. But we also found uh, in 2022, we found an articulated hadrosaur skeleton, just coming out of this sandstone bench. And Brown's notes didn't indicate that he had found an animal there, but all these bones were piled up in these very strange ways. And there was a big pile of sand right next to the skeleton. And then we looked and we realized there was actually a rusty bucket with a giant sagebrush growing out of it right next to the dinosaur. So it seems like Barnum Brown must have found this skeleton and then played with it a little bit, dug a pit, decided it wasn't worth his time, and then left without ever having a record of that event. We're going to collect this specimen this year because it actually looks pretty nice. It's in a really hard ironstone, but it's the kind of ironstone that can actually be prepared away, and it can actually protect the fossils in some sense. And we know that there is at least some parts of the skull. There's an upper jawbone preserved in place in the sandstone, and there's about 15 tail vertebrae and ribs all articulated next to each other. So it's probably a nice skeleton just sitting there waiting for us to dig up. So we're going to do that this year.
That's really exciting stuff, Ethan.
Um,
And I
so that was a
really
rare opportunity to see trash from the great man himself.
kind of combining paleontology and archaeology there too, where we're doing paleoarchaeology in that sense, finding a bucket left by Barnum Brown. Really, really cool stuff. Yeah, holy cow. And so maybe for those of the members of chat who are not aware of this kind of thing, where do these fossils end up after we're done with them, and how do we ensure that they are available for scientific study long after we're gone? Talk about the repository, I guess, for these.
So the fossils are from Bureau of Land Management lands. And so all fossils from public or federal lands in America technically belong to the federal government, and by extension, they belong to citizens of the United States. So they're off of the market. They will never be bought or sold. So they have to go into a permanent, what we call a repository, or a university or museum that has a collection of fossils where they take care of the fossils, so that people can go and visit them on display, or so scientists can come in and study them. So these fossils will permanently end up in the collections of the Cincinnati Museum Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. And they've already got a pretty great dinosaur collection there, and so we're going to be adding to that continuously. Yeah.
Pretty cool stuff. And SVP was in Cincinnati this year, the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology. I didn't get to go this year, but you did, Ethan. How was that? Kind of like showing off that museum to the vertebrate paleontology community at large.
It was a lot of fun. It was a great meeting. A lot of great talks. So the socializing was terrific, and I have a
That's
lot
good
of
to
family
hear.
there as well. So it was nice to get a bit of both worlds.
That's
But
pretty cool.
I got to give a talk on Torvosaurus, which is the specimen that's housed at the Cincinnati Museum Center. So it was cool because on the welcome reception night, everyone just gets beers and they go into the museum and look at the dinosaurs together and eat macaroni and cheese. And so it was cool to give a talk about a specimen that everybody was gawking at the day before. So that was cool.
That is really, really neat. Yeah. Shoot, could you talk for a minute maybe about Torvosaurus and why you're interested in that animal and what it means for like Morrison Formation ecology and that kind of thing? Give us an intro. What is Torvosaurus?
So Torvosaurus is a gigantic theropod or predatory dinosaur, and so most of the big predatory dinosaurs, they're either a group that we call Coelurosaurs, which includes the raptors, the tyrannosaurs, and birds, and some of their relatives, or and then we also have other other groups other groups of theropods within a big group called tetanurans, but that don't actually evolve into birds or into anything really close to birds. So T Rex, for example, is more closely related to a chicken than it is to the Allosaurus that Danny just touched with his hand. And so
Yeah.
Torvosaurus is a lot closer to Allosaurus than it is to a T Rex or a thing like a bird. So Torvosaurus is basically a gigantic 35-foot long, maybe 3 or 4 ton predatory dinosaur from the late Jurassic period in North America and Iberia, Spain and Portugal. And it lived in the exact same time and place as Allosaurus. So we have Allosaurus in the late Jurassic in North America and in Spain and Portugal. So they lived side by side for perhaps a few million years. And from what we understand, Torvosaurus is bigger than most specimens of Allosaurus, although Allosaurus does get huge if they live long enough. But Torvosaurus is an extremely rare dinosaur. So whereas Allosaurus is known from many, many dozens of specimens, Torvosaurus is really only known from a handful. In fact, Allosaurus was named, I think, in 1877, and Torvosaurus wasn't named until 1979. So that gives you an idea of how rare this dinosaur must have been, given that people were collecting dinosaurs from the late Jurassic in North America for more than a century before they found a good Torvosaurus skeleton. So Torvosaurus it's got a very long, low skull. It has very, very few teeth in its jaws. That's one of the things that this new specimen is telling us is that it has a very reduced number of teeth. It's got an extremely narrow snout, and the snout and the back of the head, like in a tyrannosaur, the back of the head is very broad. In Torvosaurus, it's almost like just a rectangle all the way back, just a narrow rectangle. It had extremely robust, short, very, very powerful arms. So it's got these huge ridges and bumps on the arms that serve as attachment sites for muscles that really just blow the arms of Allosaurus out of the water. So Allosaurus makes T-Rex arms look ridiculous. Torvosaurus make Allosaurus arms look completely ridiculous. Um, and so most specimens of Torvosaurus were known from this bone bed in western Colorado, collected in the 1970s by Brigham Young University. And they had multiple skeletons kind of jumbled up and about maybe 40% of a skull. So they had the very front of the snout, they had the upper jawbone, broken pieces of the bones that surround the eyes, and a little bit of the lower jaw. And then in 2014, a new skeleton of Torvosaurus was found from near Dinosaur National Monument, just outside of the monument. And this specimen is 55% complete. So it may actually be the single most complete skeleton of a megalosaurid dinosaur ever found. And remember, the first dinosaur ever named was Megalosaurus. So that's in the same family as Torvosaurus. So it's pretty amazing that a really, really nice skeleton of a megalosaurid has eluded us until the late 2010s. So this specimen, the skull is not very complete, but it has the first ever complete upper jawbone. So it's got a complete maxilla and it's the only megalosaurid dinosaur that has a complete upper jawbone. It's also got most of the back part of the lower jaw, which is a region that has not been found in basically any other megalosaurid dinosaur. When I was in Oxford recently, I saw part of a lower jaw that had been attributed to Megalosaurus, but I got to looking at it and I was like, this is actually a crocodile jaw. So it had been referred to Megalosaurus just because it's from the same rock formation. So there's all these different isolated bones from the same formation that have all been lumped into Megalosaurus. And it seems like the upper jaws and the lower jaws that have been called Megalosaurus, they seem to have a common morphology, a common anatomy. So it seems like, okay, we do know that there is this thing called Megalosaurus. This is what the upper jaw looks like. This is what the lower jaw looks like. But the very back of the lower jaw, the part that hooks onto the skull, that piece happens to be probably not a dinosaur at all. So that makes the new specimen of Torvosaurus even more scientifically significant because it's the first time we get to see what does the back of the jaw look like, and it looks very strange. The articular bone, which is what the skull, the bone that attaches the lower jaw to the skull, is oriented at a totally oblique angle. So whereas in like an Allosaurus, as you can see with the specimen behind Danny, or you probably can't see this feature from where you're sitting, but the articular is totally flat. And then in Torvosaurus, it's totally oblique for some reason. So the jaw would have hooked into the head at a very weird angle. It's got a huge fenestra in the lower jaw. So Danny, if you want to point to the external mandibular fenestra on the Allosaurus there.
Right here.
So in
Yeah.
Torvosaurus, right there, yeah. In Torvosaurus, that hole is gigantic. And then in Allosaurus, it's really greatly reduced. It's also at the top margin of the back of the lower jaw, Danny. So that's the syringular there. You can see
Yep.
it's like elevated. There's a bump. Yeah, right there. There's
there.
a bump right there. And that
Yeah.
seems to be for anchoring jaw muscles.
Uh-huh.
The muscles that close the jaw. In Torvosaurus, that area is totally flat. So there's all these weird skeletal adaptations that we're starting to see from Torvosaurus that is kind of making me think, this thing is really specialized for something, and what it is, I really don't know. But I have a feeling it wasn't very good at it, whatever it was, because they go extinct at the end of the Jurassic period. Whereas whereas things like Allosaurus, I'm going to plug my computer in real quick. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, take your time.
Here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like megalosaurids go extinct, and spinosaurids, their closest relatives, also go extinct. So spinosaurids, a group that I'm working on, they also go extinct in like the early Cretaceous period. They just completely get wiped out, and we're still kind of figuring this out. Like, why is that? The mid Cretaceous extinction event is one of those things that has been really, really understudied, and Ethan and Jim talks about this all the time. There's something bizarre that happened there, like at the end of the Cenomanian epoch, that just we don't really have any understanding of this so far, or at least I'm not aware of any understanding of this. Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah. Really cool stuff.
So another interesting thing about like you were saying about Spinosaurs. So like you said, Spinosaurids and Megalosaurids, they cluster together in a lot of evolutionary tree analyses, a lot of phylogenetic trees. Some people have started to indicate that they may actually not be sister clades, but we'll figure that out as we go. But the new skull of Torvosaurus, what it's kind of showing us is that Megalosaurids had a very Spinosaurid-like snout. So Spinosaurids seem extremely specialized, and they certainly are. Their maxilla and premaxilla and nasal, their facial bones and their lower jaw is just like completely ridiculously long. But because Megalosaurid skulls have been so scrappy and incomplete, it's been kind of hard to figure out what a big adult skeletally mature Megalosaurid skull looks like. And because the Torvosaurus skull parts from the first quarry found in the 70s appear to be from an individual that is about the same size as the new Cincinnati specimen, we've been able to put all of those bones together into a composite reconstruction, and it looks like Torvosaurus, although not even close to the extreme elongation and lateral compression that you see in the snout of a Spinosaur, it's starting to suggest that it's not hard to figure out how something that is closely related to Torvosaurus would evolve into something like Spinosaurus. So it could be that this sort of elongated snout is a basal characteristic to the clade that includes megalosaurs and spinosaurs. And maybe it means that megalosaurs are behaving a bit more like spinosaurs. Because spinosaurs also supposedly have or not supposedly, Baryonyx has extremely robust arms,
Oh
very
yeah.
similar to Torvosaurus. And it seems as though the evidence is pretty strong that spinosaurs are consuming fish. So it could be that Torvosaurus and other megalosaurids, because they go extinct at the end of the Jurassic, it could be that they're kind of being Spinosaur like in their ecosystems before Spinosaurs were really doing it themselves. But it's hard
Interesting.
to say for now.
So we know for sure that megalosaurs go extinct at the end of the Jurassic. Like, is that incontrovertible at this point?
Torvosaurus is the youngest megalosaurus.
Wow.
We don't have
Shoot.
any megalosaur from the Cretaceous. So Afrovenator, which Serino described from
Yeah.
Niger,
Uh
it
huh.
was originally named as being from the early Cretaceous, but then
Yeah.
people looked at the stratigraphy again and realized that that's actually Middle Jurassic.
Afrovenators from the Middle Jurassic. Holy
So they
cow.
totally die out.
That changes everything. I had no idea. That's really really cool. Shoot. I did not know that. Um. Well, darn. Really neat, Ethan. I should look at the time again. It's 6:20 right now my time, which means it's 7:20 your time. I want to be respectful of your time. Do you have to run right now, or can you continue for a while? No worries if you have to run.
I'm good to stay as long as there's stuff to as long as you're not bored of me.
Oh, there. It's gonna take us a long time for. You're gonna have to go before we get bored of you. I'll put it that way. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Yeah. So, we've got a question from Velocity Lanes right here. They want to know, would you ever write a book, whether solo or with another paleontologist? And I guess what would it be about? So far, according to what you've specialized in the in the world of paleontology, Ethan, what would you feel most qualified to write a book about?
It would be really fun to write. I don't know. I think it'd be really fun to publish like a photographic atlas of really cool fossils.
Huh? Like a coffee
Um,
table book? Big photographic book?
like yeah, I mean exactly, yeah. Just like I mean, fossils are beautiful objects and they're like, scientifically interesting. So like they combine aesthetics and science and fascination and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. It'd be really
Yeah.
cool just to have like a really cool coffee table book of just extraordinary fossils. That'd be fun.
I like that
Um,
idea.
but I think as far as a book with text,
Yeah.
it would be really cool to write a book about the last 20 million years of the age of dinosaurs.
Huh.
So the late Cretaceous period. So the time when Western North America was just a skinny island and a big seaway cut North
Laramidia.
America down the middle. It'd be
Yeah.
really fun to write about sort of the history of exploration and study and sort of the questions that scientists now get to ask um, and hopefully eventually answer about those ecosystems so that tyrannosaurs, hadrosaur, duckbills, ceratopsians, the bonehead pachycephalosaurs, the armored ankylosaurs, these kinds of ecosystems, the last groups of dinosaurs before they went extinct. Because
That's a
that's
good
what we
answer.
find in places like in the Almond Formation in Wyoming.
Very cool. Very cool. I like that a lot. Yeah. Um, good stuff. I'm sure a lot of people in chat would be interested in buying either of those books if they were to go into print. Um, yeah. Yeah. We've got a question from the Dinosaur Dave too. What would you like to find this field season? I think Dinosaur Dave means in the Almond Formation of Wyoming. If you could find anything at all, blue sky here. What would you like to find, Ethan? Go nuts.
I would like to find. So we're gonna go back to where the ceratopsian frill came from. So I would very much like to find more of that ceratopsian skull. That would be a dream come true because
Have
it's
we got
in
an
really
excavation
soft
permit for
rock.
that?
It's in mudstone. We will by that time. So because that
Ooh.
site is within a quarter mile of Skull Ridge,
Uh huh.
they have a system where you can expedite excavation permits for areas that are within the same corridor section.
Nice.
So it's in progress right now. So they don't need to do another analysis. So it'll definitely be done in time, which is really great news.
Fantastic.
I mean, I would love to have enough of a skull of a new ceratopsian species to mount it and see what this thing really looked like. We're also going to be collecting another duckbill skeleton with tons of skin on it. So it's an articulated skeleton. The legs are articulated. There's a foot that's got skin all over it. There's a leg that's got skin all over it. There's big blocks of sandstone with skin impressions from the side of the animal where you can see the skin wrinkle around the ribs of the desiccated carcass. And there's giant bones of the animal going straight into the sandstone, exactly where it's eroding out of. So I would love, more than almost anything else, to find the rest or the front half of that hadrosaur going into the sandstone, all articulated with tons of skin and hopefully a skull. That would be really great.
That's a really exciting thought. Yeah. Do you have any idea, Ethan, why it seems like duckbill dinosaurs seem to preserve as mummies or seem to preserve with skin more often than other kinds of dinosaurs? I mean, we've all heard rumors about this kind of thing, but do you have like
They see,
yeah,
yeah.
let us know.
It could be something to do with the thickness of their hide. Maybe duckbills had
Uh-huh.
really thick skin, and so it was more likely to be conducive to fossilization. They also, I know some people are skeptical of this, but they do seem to occur in sandstone more frequently than ceratopsians do or other kinds of dinosaurs. Um, for example, I mean, almost every hadrosaur that we found has been in a hard sandstone channel in the Almond Formation. Um, it's not always the case, for sure, but what happens is that's the kind of environment that's really conducive to the preservation of soft tissues.
Right.
So, right, the animal dies, and it maybe gets cooked in the sun for a little while, then it gets buried in a channel sand. Maybe that channel dries up, and the impression of the skin in the soft sand hardens, and then that may turn into a sandstone that gets compacted and cemented, and that preserves the skin. It could be that. It could be a combination of factors. Maybe yeah. So it could be that maybe they have thicker, tougher hide, and maybe they prefer to live in rivers more than other dinosaurs, and maybe that combines to make it more likely that they have skin preserved. I'm not totally sure, but it does seem to be much more common with hadrosaurs.
Right. That's a good answer. And I've heard the same thing from other researchers too. I'm a little skeptical of that idea myself that they're like, oh, they always live near fluvial environments, but like, because I found hadrosaurs in mudstones as well, but all the best ones are always from
Yeah, me
sandstones.
too. They occur. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I have not. I don't think I've ever collected a ceratopsian from sandstone, but it certainly happens. Like Nasutoceratops, that ceratopsian from the Kaparowitz,
Yeah.
was collected in a very hard sandstone, and it's covered in skin.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I found Triceratops specimens in sandstones before, and like that one of the ones was well, actually I didn't find that one, but there was one that like had potential keratin over the frill, and that was from a sandstone as well. And that's so
nice.
yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. We've got a question about fossil mammals, if you're willing to field that one, Ethan. Have you come across any large or small mammals during excavations? And I mean, shoot, any mammals from the Mesozoic are bound to be small. But yeah, in your various digs over the years, what kind of mammal material have you found, I guess?
I have never seen a mammal fossil in the Mesozoic in my life in the field.
Really? Wow, holy cow. Yeah.
In museum collections, I see plenty, but I've never. I've been collecting dinosaurs for 9 or 10 years. I've never once seen a mammal
And
in the ground
I
before.
want to clarify for the chat, this is not a commentary on the prolificness of Ethan's collecting. It's just that mammals tend to be really rare in the Mesozoic. They were like minor players in their ecosystems, especially in Cretaceous North America. Um, I've found a handful of mammal jaws and teeth, and sometimes even limb bones in the Judith River and the Hell Creek. But that's like
Nice.
working on microsites for like days and days and days. That's after collecting dozens and maybe hundreds of gar scales and lizard jaws and stuff like that until you finally come across a piece of a mammal. But yeah, shoot, if
Is
we
that with
found
Denver?
any, yeah, mostly with Denver, yeah, um, Denver Fowler for those of you in chat who are wondering. But man, if we found any mammal material in the almond, that would be pretty stellar. So we've got a few microsites to work, and we're going to be
We
looking for
collected a
more this
lot of
year.
matrix.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we have tons of sediment that we collected from these microsites, and Nick had a funny quote where he said the rule of thumb is it's 50 pounds of matrix per mammal tooth, and we got about 50 pounds of matrix. So
Uh-huh.
hopefully, as we sift through all that dirt, maybe a mammal tooth will show up.
Right. Yeah. And do you have plans to do that? Are there people working on that? Are people going to be sieving through this stuff in the near future?
I would love for that to happen. I just don't have anyone to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah. I talk about this all the time.
Just
Where
got bags
like,
of dirt sitting there.
yeah, in invertebrate paleontology, like we have material and we have fossils out there in the field. There's just most of our shortages are like of funds and of labor, you know? Um, yeah, yeah. Speaking of funds, we had some people in the chat wondering if there will be another fundraiser for this summer's fieldwork in the almond. Before we leave, are you planning on doing that? Do we have any grants ready to go, or is this going to be another crowd-funded kind of a deal here? What are you thinking, Nathan?
I've written no grants,
Okay, okay.
but I think the, I think the move experiment.com is it's a terrific way to get your name out there to get people to
Oh
contribute,
yeah.
but they do take quite a sizable cut of the money that's raised. So I
Hmm.
think it might be easiest just to kind of go straight to Venmo, um,
Oh,
or PayPal or
interesting.
something like that.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
it might just be more straightforward, and then there's no stress about
When they'll get the
yeah,
money
then
to
there's
you and
no
everything,
stress
like we were
whatsoever
worrying about
about
last year. Yeah, like
exactly, yeah, it's just cleaner. Yeah.
yeah. Good to know. Good to know. So if we do run another paleontologizing fundraiser this summer for our field work in the almond formation, digging up these new dinosaurs and other critters, it might be straight Venmo or PayPal or something like that. That's I kind of like that, you know? Um, yeah, yeah, cool. Well, good to know. Maybe in by the time April or May roll around, we'll have to put something together for that. And now that I've got some lead time,
It'd be
I
great.
can make that happen. Yeah, yeah. Uh,
That'd be awesome.
very good. Yeah, cool, cool, cool. Rizu Dego says we already have Ethan's Venmo, so there you go. Yeah,
Oh,
good stuff.
I guess I did read it over chat. I forgot.
What's
That's
that?
funny. I said I guess I did read it over chat out loud already.
Oh,
That's
no
funny.
worries. Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And we've got another great question from Velocity Lanes. I think this kind of applies to both of us. Velocity Lanes wants to know, my little cousins are really into dinosaurs. What do you think is the best way to encourage them to learn more about dinosaurs without having them lose interest? In your experience, Ethan, how did you manage to
Hmm.
maintain an interest in fossil science? Because I mean, it started with a very young age for you, right? How did you not lose that to the current point where you are today?
What you need is I guess this is not really a factor because of the internet, but you need more and more stuff to read and look at and see,
Yeah,
right? If you have one dusty dino book from first grade, it might not keep you going through fourth and fifth grade and sixth grade in high school.
yeah,
Um, so by staying furnished with new dino books and watching fresh Twitch chats like this one, Twitch streams like this one, and going to museums as often as you can and getting involved yourself. So meeting paleontologists and volunteering for museums, that kind of thing. That's a great way to keep it going. If you don't have people to do stuff with, you know, it's quite hard to maintain a real burning interest in something because it's kind of how we evolved. Like we evolved to do stuff together. So
Social
having a
species.
network of
Yeah.
people who are also interested in paleontology and like to do it, it kind of keeps it all going. You keep each other going. So
Yep. That's good advice. Yeah, I mean, shoot, having that kind of like community, even if it's virtual, like here on Twitch, that counts for something. But this is like the advice that I always give. Like, see if you can volunteer in a museum or something like that. Be where other people are doing fossil science. It counts for an awful lot. And it's easier today than I think it's ever been with the internet. So that's good advice, Ethan. Yeah. Yeah. Um, and let me look at other questions here. Hang on a second. Um, let's see here. Hang on just a second, Ethan. I'm having technical difficulties. Uh, there we go. Yeah. I think kind of drilling down deeper into that. Ethan, can you tell us a story maybe about when you were a young person interested in paleontology? When did you first realize that you wanted to be a paleontologist? And thinking back to that time, what are some other pieces of advice that you could give to young people who might be watching this broadcast right now who want to become paleontologists themselves?
I would say probably first grade. That sounds right.
Yeah.
Um, so what is that, 6 or 7?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm sure I had like a 3-year-old dinosaur phase, but I think it's probably around first grade where I decided that this would be a cool way to spend one's life.
Uh-huh.
Um, I would say just keep learning about it as much as you possibly can, and then just try to stay up to date with dino news. So there's every time a new story comes out, it's kind of a new lead that you can follow to learn about a new group or a new team that's making a discovery or some new technique or something like that. So realizing that dinosaur science or paleo in general is, even though we're studying very old things, it's a very modern subject and there's so much happening right now. So what paleontology looked like 10 years ago is not what it looks like today. And so being up on dino news can really keep you interested and motivated and remind you kind of viscerally to get it into the back of your head that paleontology is very much alive and it's thriving and growing and there's a lot to do and a lot to learn.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. I talk about that all the time. Shoot, you might be, I don't know. I might be a little bit older than you on this front, Ethan, but do you remember those Dorling Kindersley videos? DK, science, they had a dinosaurs one and they had a space one and skeleton and volcano and these other videos like this. You might not know what I'm talking about, but these were like really, really influential for a
I know
lot
the
of people at the
books, the,
time.
the DK books.
Yeah, the Eyewitness, DK Eyewitness.
Nice.
They had a video series as well, VHS tapes, like when I was a kid. And they had a whole series. There's
Nice.
probably like a dozen of them. And the dinosaur one we've actually watched a couple times here on my channel, and I feel like out of all of the different ones that exist, planets and mammals and reptiles and volcano and blah blah blah, the dinosaur one has got to be the most grievously
medieval
outdated.
medieval warfare.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Um, and they're still charming, and I'm not disparaging them at all, but it's kind of amazing how much dinosaur science has advanced, and it is such a quickly evolving field. There are, things that nobody would have dreamt of 20 years ago that we are finding today. There are, new methods that are being devised. Isotopic analysis, or like looking at melanosomes to determine fossil color and stuff like that. When I was a kid, this stuff was unfathomable. And nowadays it's becoming matter of course, and that's really really cool. So I think that's some really good advice. Like, if you're a young person, you want to become a paleontologist, keep up with the news as much as you can and just read as much as you can. And get yourself into a museum if you can volunteer there when you get old enough, because that is that is huge. Yeah. Yeah. Um
And what's great about dinosaurs is that you start learning about dinosaurs and then you start learning about all kinds of other stuff because paleontology is so thoroughly interdisciplinary. So a kid or anybody who gets really interested in dinosaurs is learning all kinds of stuff about evolution and animals and biology and geology and earth history. Um, and so it's just sort of all these new and amazing ideas and concepts and fields kind of open up for you. Not even, I mean, even I mean, in my case, it's like almost anything that I know about science is because it somehow connects back to dinosaurs in some
Me
way, you
too.
know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it really is wonderful for that.
Yeah. We have a saying here on this channel that like paleontology is like a gateway science, not in a nefarious way. It's not like we're, lurking in an alley with a trench coat being like, "Hey kid, you want to learn about some fossils or something?" But it is a way to
It's
like
the
drop
paleontological agenda.
exactly, right? But it's a way to draw people into science, and that's really really cool. Not everybody, not all scientists, I think, can claim that. If you're like in, uh, I don't know, you're looking at fluid dynamics in physics or something like that. That's not something that's really going to draw young people
Good
into
luck.
science. Yeah, exactly. Even though it would be really important, it's not something that's capturing the imaginations of fourth graders. Um, so yeah, to a certain extent, we've got a kind of a responsibility as paleontologists to reach out to the public and bring new people in, and um, yeah, yeah. D- I don't know if this is old hat, but Ethan, do you want to give a shout out to your YouTube channel about this? Because I know you were doing some outreach at one point, and I think people would like
Oh,
to
I'm
see
good.
that now that they've gotten a chance to know you.
No worries. Not. I don't really plug it anymore, but it's
Okay,
all good.
no worries. No worries. Yeah, that's all good. I'll probably let you go in a few minutes because we've been going for like a full 40 minutes after I told you we'd wrap this up. But yeah. Anyway, any other closing thoughts or anything, or when can people look out maybe for
Oh yeah. So
yeah, tell us.
so when we drove the fossils from Wyoming to the Carnegie Museum in Pittsburgh a few months
Uh huh.
ago, we got to go into the basement, into the collections at the Carnegie Museum, and we got to see the first T Rex specimen ever collected. So the name bearing specimen of T Rex.
Holotype.
That was one thing I forgot
Yeah.
to mention earlier when we were talking about cool stuff that
Yeah.
I've seen. Yeah, so that was pretty sweet to get to see the T Rex holotype. Is pretty amazing. Have you ever been to the Carnegie, Danny?
I've never been to the Carnegie. I've never been to Pennsylvania. Yeah, yeah. Do you know the story of why they moved the
Got to
T
go.
Rex holotype there back in the 40s? You know this, of course.
Yeah, it was. They did it under the pretense of the very real threat of a German bombing of New York.
Yep.
I mean, people were
Yeah.
moving all kinds of art and all kinds of other specimens from different museums into underground bunkers or shipping them inland. Um, but I've heard some people talk about how they have a suspicion that the American Museum just like wanted some cash and they just used that as sort of, you know,
Wouldn't be the
an
first time, I
excuse.
suppose.
But
Yeah, there are
I don't
museums that
know.
want to get rid of old specimens, and like
Yeah,
sometimes if they have a good excuse for it and it helps out another museum, all the more power to them. I'm working with a situation like that right now with some
yeah.
museums, and fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so what was it like to actually see the holotype of T Rex there? Because that must have been pretty cool. For those of you in chat who are not aware, a holotype is like the original specimen. If you find another creature that you think might be the same critter, you compare it to the holotype. So it's like holotypes almost
It's the
take on
benchmark.
almost, yeah, it almost takes on like sort of a sacred quality. Not to be too corny about it, but it's pretty special. Yeah. What was that like seeing that,
It was pretty
Ethan?
amazing. I mean, it's unbelievable how large T-Rex skull bones are.
Yeah,
It's like it
they're
doesn't matter how many
nuts.
times I've seen them. I mean, especially as I mean, I've been studying these Tyrannosaur skulls lately for this project that we just finally just submitted to a journal. Um, but so it's like studying other tyrannosaurs like Daspletosaurus or Lythronax or Ceratophonius or Gorgosaurus. It's just you're like, yeah, these are big animals, and then you see the same bone that you're used to seeing on a 30-foot long tyrannosaur, and then you see
Yeah.
it on a T-Rex, and it's just like,
Or
what
Allosaurus here,
on
yeah.
planet Earth could this? Yeah, yeah, it's like it's just hard to believe that something that massive once existed.
It's nuts. It really is. Like
Who is the
this.
holotype paleontologist? Tried. That's one of the in the chat there.
Yeah, Cope. He tried to be the holotype for Homo sapiens.
Made an
That's
attempt,
uh that's a pretty wild story.
but he was
We
too ragged.
Yeah, yeah, that syphilis and maybe some other ailments as well. But yeah, Jim got to actually hold Cope's skull, and there's that photo of him in that book. Uh, I have that right here, actually. Um, yeah, pretty crazy. There's Jim right there holding the skull of Edward Drinker Cope. Back in this is probably what 1992 or something like that. Um, but yeah, that's a pretty wild story. Uh, we gotta see if we can get Jim talking on camera about that at some point this next summer. Does it look like?
Yeah,
Have you
that'd be
heard
great.
anything? Any scuttlebutt about Dulling's Bowl? Are we good to go at the beginning of July, or heard anything about that, Ethan?
I've heard nothing. I've heard
Ah,
nothing, but I'm pretty sure it'll probably happen.
excellent. Okay, cool. Do you
Have
suspect
you
our work
reached
in
out to
Wyoming?
Don or?
I haven't yet. No, no. Do you suspect our work in Wyoming and the almond might extend into July this year too, like it did last year? It might be
It's
too early to say.
possible, but I think we're gonna try not to. So because of MTE, we had to leave later in the month,
Yeah. Uh
which
huh.
kind of forced us to stay a little later into July.
Uh huh.
But hopefully, just June will be enough.
Cool. Okay, I will shoot for that. I might be doing some fieldwork in Idaho in May. I'm talking to LJ Krumenacker about that. We might have some
Ooh,
Erectodromius
LJ,
specimens to dig up. Yeah. Um, but I will
nice.
definitely be there. I'll be ready beginning of June to go do some fieldwork in the almond. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yes,
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much,
sweet.
Ethan. I should
Can't
let you go.
wait.
It's been almost an hour longer than I said it was gonna be. But thank you so much for being game for this interview, and really appreciate your time and your expertise. Everybody's really looking forward to seeing you again in the field this next summer, and we'll probably run a fundraiser in about May. See if we can earn some more funds, go out and dig up these dinosaurs. We've got at least two new dinosaur species from the almond, probably more. Um, we'll have to see. Yeah, exciting stuff.
Yes.
Um,
Thanks for having
th-
me on, Danny. Thanks everyone for asking such great questions.
yeah, thank you so much, Ethan, and I'm sure we'll see you again soon.